Welcome to Davis Green, where we talk about issues that matter to the state, void of politics, fear or favor. The Public Accounts Committee (PAC) has raised serious concern about financial irregularities at the Tamale Teaching Hospital after the latest Auditor General's report revealed the payment of unearned salaries amounting to $1,449,000. Committee members expressed outrage when it was disclosed that the hospital had validated the salary of a deceased staff member for 26 months. Appearing before the committee in Accra on Monday, September 29th, the Hospital Director of Administration, Dr. Emmanuel Sena Kwesi-Donko, admitted that $303,558.68, representing about 21% of the total amount, had so far been recovered. Dr. Donko further disclosed that the hospital had submitted the list of implicated individuals to the Economic and Organized Crime Office (EOCO) for investigation and recovery. Despite these assurances, PAC members expressed dissatisfaction with the hospital's explanation. Ranking member Samuel Tamils questioned the hospital's validation process, citing the case of a deceased employee whose salary continued to be paid after his death. The committee has since demanded greater accountability from the hospital, warning that lax validation systems enable financial leakages that undermines the public purse. And this is how corruption starts. You see, we've been talking about corruption. Sometimes it's not only about you directly going. When we talk about corruption, I think some people have this kind of perception that it's like you go straight to the bank, you pick the money that does not belong to you, and then divert it into your own personal account. But then we have diverse ways and means of looting from the state. And this is not something that needs to be something that is supposed to be new, because we've been seeing this over and over again. We've heard and seen instances where people that do not exist are being paid on a government payroll. We saw babies being paid on a government payroll. We've seen NSS personnel that are no longer in the system being paid money. And now the least institution that ever came into mind that could do such a thing has to do with our hospitals. And for 26 months, the Tamale Hospital has been paying a deceased staff that is no longer in the hospital. He's dead and gone. But for 26 months, they've been paying him. So, whose account is that money going into? Are they trying to say that they are not aware? Because I believe that if someone passed out of the hospital, since the government does not have 1,000 eyes all over his body and can actually see through into each government institution to know whatever is going on there, that is why we have representative of government in every institution that belongs to the state. And whatever is going on is being reported directly to the government. So when you come to the health ministry, we have the Ministry of Health, we have the health committee. Even in the hospital, we still have some committee members. We have some leaders that lead the staff. And then when a challenge or an issue popped up and then it's being discussed, the leaders of that staff of that hospital relay that information to their head, and then their head relays the information to the Ministry of Health, and then through the Ministry of Health, the government gets to know it. That is what is going on. This hospital is lacking this, that hospital is lacking that, and then they solve it or they work towards that. And it is the same way in an institution. If someone passed away, that same procedure, they pass through it, and then the name of that person is supposed to be cancelled. You see, of late we have a lot of people, a lot of nurses demonstrating that they've not been paid. A lot of them have been demonstrating that they've not been paid their salaries. Let's put aside those who have not been employed, but we have nurses that have been employed and they are not being paid. And they are always complaining. In the same hospital where we have nurses that do not exist and they are being paid. How does this make sense? We have a nurse that is living. He or she is not dead. He or she comes to work every day to ensure that treatment or the right treatment is being given to patient. And that nurse is not being paid. And then we have another nurse who is dead and gone and is being paid for 26 months. Are they trying to tell me that the staffs do not know what is going on, or the leaders in that hospital do not actually know what is going on? Why are we being so wicked to ourselves? Why? Why are we being so wicked to ourselves? If we are supposed to dive into other sectors again, like the teaching sectors and other sectors. Recently, we saw a lot of teacher trainees who have been employed not too long, demonstrating on the street that they've not been paid. And they've poured out their grievances of how they are struggling to survive, how they are struggling to even eat 3 square meals a day. Some of them are parents. They have kids. They're supposed to pay for their fees, ensure that these children have a life, a comfortable life. How do you expect them to survive? But if you should go and then check into details, I can boldly tell you that we might even have 1,000 employees on the employment list that are being paid a month that do not even exist in the workforce. They don't exist, but they are being paid every month. And then we have people in that same sectors that are coming to work every day. They are being productive and they are not being paid. And sometimes we make this work so difficult for the government. And that is why I understand, and then I actually align with people who say that issue like this has to do with it's a collective responsibility. The government does its part by distributing the money. How come if the money is being distributed, and the ones who get the money do not exist? How is that possible? And you can't tell me that it is ghosts that does these things. They are human beings, of course. They are Ghanaians. They are blacks. They are Africans. Why are we being so wicked to ourselves? So imagine that the Public Accounts Committee did not get any hint. Kasemi Ebeka for 26 months paying a ghost. I don't know whether the ghost goes to withdraw the money and then spend it in the world of the spirit. For that I can't tell. But you see, we are outdated. And I won't stop saying this. The world is evolving. We are supposed to evolve. So are we trying to say that we don't have a digital system that can actually detect if someone is no longer with an institution? That can actually detect that this person is no longer here. We cannot be paying the person. And then focus needs to be shifted to the new employees that have been employed into that particular company, into that particular institution. Don't we have a digital system that can actually track and then see all these things? If we don't have it, then what is the use of preaching about digitalization and all these stuffs? Because we always preach about digitalization, but it looks as if we ourselves, we are not digitalized and we are not ready to do it. Because of our corrupt and selfish behavior. We are not ready to do it. And that is why we are having financial irregularities. And that is why we keep seeing people on street, employees on street, demonstrating here and then. They are not being paid. But the government knows he's paying them. But they are also saying they are not being paid. Then they'll end up telling you to file forms, to do this, to do that. And sometimes when you listen to these demonstrators, they'll tell you they've done all the necessary, provide all the necessary requirements. They've meet everything, every standard. And they're still not being paid. How can we have ghost names on our list? How can we have them? How come we have people who do not exist and they are being paid as employees? And you see, I would say that is the main reason why we also have problem with the economy. Because each and every month, the money is going, but we don't even know where the money is going to. And then, with our selfish gain, we do this harm to ourselves. I'm happy that the committee has taxed them to pay the money. And they're supposed to pay it. They're supposed to refund that money. That money can be used for other staffs. But how are we going to solve this issue? That is the question we should be asking ourselves. Because it has become very consistent. First, it was NSS ghost name. Second, it was babies being paid. And then third, it has to do with deceased being paid. Deceased employees that are dead and gone, they are being paid. How are we going to solve it? How are we going to put a stop to this? That is what we should be asking ourselves. That is why I find it difficult to even believe that our leaders go out there to learn something to benefit us as a country. Because all this Western world we are learning from, they are digitalized. Everything they do has to do with digitalization. You can be surprised you be in your house and then the government even knows what you are doing in your house. Your own house, so they know what you are doing there. So if we don't want to go by it, how do we expect to improve as a country? Until we start arresting these people after they've refunded the money, they should still be arrested. If not, then we'll keep marking time and we'll keep singing the same song. Thank you for making time with me on the screen.